The courtroom was filled with quiet murmurs as the judge leaned back in his chair, his gavel tapping against the desk in amusement. A smirk played on his lips as he eyed the young girl standing before him. Small, with oversized glasses that seemed too big for her face, her hands nervously clutching the edge of the wooden table. She had walked into his courtroom like she belonged there, speaking with confidence. But now, after listening to her for a few minutes, the judge had lost his patience. "Are you serious?" he scoffed, his voice laced with disbelief. He chuckled and shook his head. "Is this some kind of joke? A little girl trying to act like a lawyer? What is this, a school project?" Laughter rippled through the courtroom. The audience, the jury, the opposing attorneys, even the bailiffs, shared amused glances. The judge turned to the gallery, shaking his head, as if seeking approval for his mockery. "Miss, I don't know where you got the idea that you could stand in my courtroom and argue a real case," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. "Maybe you should go back to the library, read a few more books, and come back when you actually know what you're talking about." The girl's face flushed, but she did not move. She did not run. She did not cry. Instead, she looked straight into the judge's eyes. And then she spoke. What came out of her mouth made the room fall silent. The laughter stopped. The smirks faded. The judge's expression shifted from amusement to something else entirely. Disbelief, confusion, and then something he never expected. Fear. But before we get to that moment, let's go back to where it all began. 3 weeks earlier, 17-year-old Rachel Myers sat in the school library, flipping through a thick legal book. Most students her age were outside enjoying the afternoon sun, but Rachel had always preferred books over people. It wasn't that she disliked others. She just found that most people didn't understand her. She had always been different. A genius, some called her. A freak, others whispered. But Rachel had never cared about labels. She cared about knowledge. That day, as she studied, she heard a commotion outside the library doors. "Please, I didn't do anything," a panicked voice cried. Rachel's head shot up. She recognized that voice. It was Tommy, a boy from her class, one of the only people who had ever been kind to her. He was always quiet, always polite. She stood up and peeked outside. Tommy was pressed against the lockers by 2 security guards. His backpack had been emptied on the floor, and among the scattered books and papers was a small, unfamiliar black pouch. A man in a suit, a police officer, held it up. "Drugs," he announced. "You're coming with us." Tommy's face drained of color. "That's not mine. I swear." Rachel felt a strange twist in her stomach. She could see it in his eyes. He was telling the truth. But no one else believed him. 2 days later, the whole school was talking about Tommy's arrest. Teachers whispered in the hallways. Students gossiped at lunch. Rachel, however, didn't waste time with rumors. She spent those 2 days researching. What she found made her heart race. There had been several cases like Tommy's in the past year. Students falsely accused, their futures destroyed. The police reports didn't add up. The evidence always seemed too convenient. The arrests always happened too quickly. Rachel knew something was wrong, and she was going to prove it. She had read every book she could find on law, studied every legal case she could access. But she wasn't just going to learn about it. She was going to do something. So she did the impossible. She filed a motion to represent Tommy in court. Of course, no one took her seriously at first. A teenage girl, acting as a lawyer? It was absurd. But the more she argued, the more she cited legal codes and constitutional rights, the more people started to listen. And somehow, by some miracle, she got her day in court. But she had no idea that stepping into that courtroom would lead to something far bigger than Tommy's case. It would lead to secrets that powerful people had tried to bury. And it would lead to a moment. The moment that left a judge stunned, an entire courtroom in silence, and Rachel proving that no one should ever underestimate a girl with a sharp mind and an unbreakable will. But before that, she had to step into the lion's den. The courtroom doors loomed ahead. She took a deep breath and walked inside. Rachel felt the weight of 100 eyes on her as she made her way to the defendant's table. Tommy sat beside her, his hands shaking under the table. He was terrified. Rachel wasn't. She had spent the past 2 weeks preparing for this moment. Every night, she had stayed up studying legal terms, memorizing case laws, rehearsing her arguments in front of the mirror. She had done everything possible to be ready. But nothing could prepare her for what happened next. The judge entered, an older man with sharp eyes and a permanent scowl. He glanced at Rachel, then at the paperwork in front of him. His scowl deepened. "This must be a mistake," he muttered. "Where's the attorney?" Rachel stood. "I'm the attorney." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Someone laughed. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me. I am the legal representative for Thomas Parker," Rachel said firmly, refusing to let her voice shake. The judge stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something Rachel hadn't expected. He laughed. The sound was cold, mocking. "Oh, this is rich," he said, shaking his head. "Are you trying to play dress-up, young lady? Do you have any idea where you are?" Rachel swallowed hard. "I know exactly where I am, Your Honor. I also know that under U.S. law, any defendant has the right to legal representation of their choosing. Tommy has chosen me." The judge snorted. "Well, I suppose if you want to waste everyone's time." "I don't waste time," Rachel interrupted. "But if you continue to delay this case based on personal bias, you'll be violating due process." The courtroom went still. The judge's smirk faltered for the briefest second. Rachel saw it. And that was when she knew. This wasn't just about Tommy anymore. There was something bigger going on. She just had to figure out what. But before she could say another word, the doors to the courtroom burst open. A man in a dark suit stormed in, his face pale and tense. He walked straight to the judge and whispered something in his ear. Whatever he said made the judge's expression change instantly, from amusement to fear. And that was when Rachel knew. She had just stepped into something far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Rachel watched closely as the man in the dark suit whispered something into the judge's ear. The judge's face, which had moments ago been full of amusement and mockery, turned rigid. His fingers clenched around the gavel as if he needed to hold on to something solid. Whatever that man had just told him, it wasn't good. Rachel's mind raced. Who was he? What did he say? Why did the judge suddenly look afraid? The room was deathly silent. Everyone had noticed the shift. Tommy, beside her, whispered, "What's going on?" Rachel didn't answer. She was too busy observing. The judge's eyes darted toward Rachel. This time, not with arrogance, but with something else. Suspicion. Worry. Then, as quickly as it happened, he straightened and cleared his throat. The mask of confidence returned, but Rachel had already seen beneath it. "Well," he said, tapping his gavel lightly, "it appears we have an unexpected situation." He looked at Rachel, his voice regaining its condescending tone, though now it seemed more forced. "Miss Meyer, since you're so eager to play lawyer, let's see if you actually know what you're doing." Rachel met his gaze. "That's exactly what I plan to do, Your Honor." The tension in the room thickened. But Rachel knew one thing for certain. Something was wrong. Something bigger than Tommy's case. And she was going to find out what. The trial officially began. The prosecution's lawyer, a tall, slick-haired man named Mr. Holloway, stood up and adjusted his suit with a smug expression. He had clearly expected an easy victory today. He walked to the jury and gave them a confident smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very simple case. The defendant, Thomas Parker, was caught with illegal substances in his possession at school. The evidence is undeniable. The law is clear. This case should not take long." Rachel stayed quiet, listening carefully. Mr. Holloway turned to Tommy. "Mr. Parker, you were found with these illegal substances in your backpack, were you not?" Tommy swallowed hard. "I objection." Rachel's voice was calm but firm. The judge sighed, rubbing his forehead. "On what grounds?" "Leading the witness," Rachel said. "He's making a statement instead of asking a neutral question." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. A few jurors even nodded slightly. The judge hesitated. He had expected Rachel to be flustered, to struggle. Instead, she was controlling the room. "Sustained," he finally said. Rachel hid a smile. One small victory. Mr. Holloway's smirk faltered for a second, but he quickly recovered. "Fine." He turned back to Tommy. "Mr. Parker, can you explain why illegal substances were found in your bag?" "I don't know," Tommy said honestly. "I've never seen that pouch before." Mr. Holloway sighed dramatically. "So you expect us to believe that someone else just happened to put it there?" "Yes," Rachel said before Tommy could respond. Mr. Holloway turned to her, narrowing his eyes. "And do you have proof of this wild accusation?" Rachel took a deep breath. This was it. She walked to her table and pulled out a stack of papers. "Actually, I do." The courtroom went silent. Rachel held up a printed copy of security footage from the school hallway. "This is a still frame from the school's security camera," she said. and it shows a student slipping something into Tommy's backpack while he wasn't looking. Gasps filled the room. Mr. Holloway's smirk vanished completely. Rachel walked to the judge and handed him the evidence. I motioned to have this video footage entered into the court record. The judge took the papers, his eyes scanning them. His fingers trembled slightly. Why was he so nervous? Rachel studied him carefully. There was something here, something much deeper than just a simple case. The judge exhaled sharply. Motion granted. Another win. But before Rachel could celebrate, Mr. Holloway spoke. This proves nothing, he said quickly. Even if someone else put the drugs in his bag, that doesn't mean he didn't know about them. Rachel turned to Tommy. Did you know about them? No, Tommy said. I swear. I've never touched drugs in my life. Rachel nodded, then faced Mr. Holloway. Then the burden of proof is on you. Unless you have evidence that Tommy knew about the drugs, then all you have is a planted pouch. And that's not enough for a conviction. Silence. For the first time, Mr. Holloway looked unsure. The judge glanced between Rachel and Mr. Holloway. He cleared his throat. Let's take a brief recess. Bang. The gavel hit the desk. As soon as the courtroom emptied, Rachel turned to Tommy. You okay? Tommy exhaled, rubbing his hands together. I think so. He looked at her with amazement. Rachel, how do you know all of this? Rachel hesitated. But before she could finish, someone grabbed her arm. She spun around and came face to face with the man in the dark suit. The same one who had whispered to the judge earlier. His grip was tight, his eyes cold. Miss Meyer, he said, his voice low and threatening. A word. Rachel's stomach twisted, but she didn't let fear show. Who are you? She asked. The man gave a slow, chilling smile. That's not important, he said. What is important is that you're asking too many questions. Rachel's heart pounded. You don't belong here, he continued, leaning in slightly. This case is already decided. Walk away. Rachel's fists clenched. Or what? The man tilted his head. Or you'll regret it. A chill ran down Rachel's spine. Tommy stood up, stepping beside her. Hey, leave her alone. The man didn't even look at Tommy. His eyes were locked on Rachel's. A warning. Then, just as quickly as he had appeared, he turned and walked away. Rachel took a deep breath, her mind spinning. Who was he? And why was he so desperate to stop this case? One thing was certain. This wasn't just about Tommy anymore. Something bigger was happening, and she had just stepped into the middle of it. Rachel's heart pounded as she watched the man in the dark suit disappear through the courtroom doors. His words echoed in her mind. Walk away, or you'll regret it. Fear tried to creep in, but she pushed it down. She wasn't going to back off. Not now, not ever. Tommy grabbed her arm. Rachel, who was that guy? She shook her head. I don't know. But what she did know was that this case was bigger than she thought. And if people were trying to scare her away, it meant she was getting close to something dangerous. Rachel took a deep breath. Come on. We don't have much time before the judge calls us back in. Tommy followed her as they stepped into the hallway. Students, parents, and reporters whispered as they passed. Rachel caught bits of their conversations. That girl is a lawyer? She's crazy if she thinks she can win. I heard she's some kind of genius. Rachel ignored them and focused on her plan. She had already shaken the prosecution, but she needed something bigger, something undeniable, to prove Tommy's innocence. She reached into her bag and pulled out a flash drive. It contained something she had found the night before, something that could change everything. But before she could explain it to Tommy, the bailiff's voice echoed through the hallway. Court is back in session. Rachel straightened her shoulders. It was time. As Rachel and Tommy stepped back inside, the courtroom was still buzzing with energy. The judge sat stiffly at his bench, clearly still unsettled by whatever the man in the dark suit had whispered to him earlier. Rachel placed her flash drive on the table and took a deep breath. She had one shot to do this right. The judge sighed. Miss Meyer, I assume you're ready to continue? Yes, Your Honor. Rachel turned to Mr. Holloway, who looked a little less confident than before. I'd like to introduce new evidence, Rachel announced. Mr. Holloway scoffed. More printed papers? How cute. Rachel smirked. Not this time. She held up the flash drive. This is a video file from the school's external security cameras. The room fell silent. Rachel walked up to the judge's bench and handed him the drive. This footage was taken from a camera outside the school, showing someone placing the illegal substances in Tommy's bag. The judge frowned, but Rachel saw something else in his expression, worry. Bailiff, The judge said reluctantly. Play the footage. The bailiff inserted the flash drive into the courtroom's monitor. The screen flickered, and a grainy video played. A figure appeared on the screen, walking through the school's parking lot. He was dressed in a dark hoodie, his face mostly hidden. Then, as the camera angle shifted, the courtroom gasped. The person in the video reached into his pocket, pulled out the black pouch, the exact one found in Tommy's backpack, and slipped it inside while Tommy wasn't looking. Rachel clenched her fists. Now everyone could see the truth. Mr. Holloway shot up from his chair. This doesn't prove anything, he snapped. You can't even see the person's face. Rachel didn't flinch. Not in this footage, she agreed. But I also have an enhanced version. The bailiff clicked the next file. The video zoomed in, sharpening the image. The hoodie slipped back slightly, just enough to reveal the person's face. Another gasp. Tommy whispered, "No way." Rachel's eyes stayed locked on the screen. The person in the video, the one who had framed Tommy, was a police officer. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Mr. Holloway's face paled. This is fake." Rachel raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting the school's official security footage is fake?" Mr. Holloway's mouth opened, but no words came out. Rachel took a step forward. "Your Honor, this is clear evidence that Tommy Parker was framed. Not by another student, but by an officer of the law." The judge's fingers twitched on the gavel. The entire courtroom was watching him, waiting for his reaction. Finally, he sighed. "The court will take a recess to review this evidence further." Bang! Rachel let out a slow breath as the courtroom erupted in whispers. But something still wasn't right. The judge was stalling, and Rachel had a feeling she knew why. Outside the courtroom, Rachel sat on a bench, staring at the floor in deep thought. Tommy paced back and forth. "Rachel, that was amazing. I know," she said, cutting him off. "But something isn't adding up." Tommy frowned. "What do you mean?" "We just proved I was framed." Rachel nodded. "Yes, but why?" Tommy paused. "What do you mean, why?" She looked up at him. "Think about it. Why would a police officer frame a random high school student? What's the motive?" Tommy's face fell. I don't know." Rachel's mind spun. This wasn't just a simple case. There was a reason Tommy had been chosen as a target, and she needed to find out why. Just then, a voice interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Meyer." Rachel looked up. It was the man in the dark suit. He was standing a few feet away, his expression unreadable. Rachel's body tensed. "What do you want?" The man gave a slow, eerie smile. "You should have listened to me." Before Rachel could react, two uniformed officers appeared behind him. "Rachel Meyer," one of them said, pulling out a badge. "You're under arrest." Tommy gasped. "What? For what?" The officer didn't answer. He grabbed Rachel's arm. Rachel struggled. "You can't do this. I haven't done anything wrong." The man in the dark suit leaned in close and whispered, "I told you. Walk away." Rachel's mind screamed in protest, but the cold metal of handcuffs snapped around her wrists. As they dragged her away, she turned back to Tommy. "Find out the truth," she said desperately. "No matter what." And then the courtroom doors slammed behind her. The cold metal of the handcuffs pressed against Rachel's wrists as the officers led her through the back halls of the courthouse. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay calm. This wasn't just about her. This was about Tommy. About the truth. Tommy's panicked face flashed in her mind as the courtroom doors slammed shut behind her. He had been shouting, demanding answers, but the officers ignored him. The judge hadn't stopped them. No one had. Rachel clenched her fists. This was planned. The man in the dark suit. He had warned her. And now he had made good on his threat. Rachel took a slow breath. Think. She wasn't going to let them scare her. She wasn't going to break. She was going to figure out who was behind this. And she was going to win. They shoved her into a small interrogation room, the kind she had only seen in movies. Gray walls, a metal table, a single chair. A security camera blinked in the corner. Rachel sat down, her mind racing. Minutes passed. Then, the door opened. The man in the dark suit stepped inside. He didn't sit. He simply stood across from her, staring with that same unnerving smirk. "Quite the little troublemaker, aren't you?" he said, his voice smooth and calm. Rachel held his gaze. Framing an innocent kid wasn't enough? Now you're coming after me. The man chuckled. "Oh, Rachel." He stepped closer, placing both hands on the table. "You don't understand, do you?" Rachel refused to look away. "Then explain it to me." The man tilted his head. "I warned you to walk away. You expect me to drop this just because you told me to? Rachel scoffed. I thought you'd be smarter than that. The man's smile didn't fade. If anything, it grew. Oh, I know how smart you are, he said. That's the problem. Rachel's stomach twisted, but she didn't let it show. You're digging into something far bigger than you realize, the man continued. And very powerful people don't like that. Rachel narrowed her eyes. Who? The man didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. Rachel hesitated before opening it. Her breath caught. Inside were photos, newspaper clippings, police reports, all connected. Case after case of students falsely accused of crimes. Planted evidence. Ruined lives. Rachel's fingers trembled slightly as she flipped through them. This wasn't just about Tommy. It had been happening for years. Rachel looked up. Why? She demanded. Why are they doing this? The man leaned in. Because it's profitable. Rachel's blood ran cold. He continued. Private detention centers. Juvenile correction facilities. Every student convicted adds to their profits. It's a system, Rachel. A business. Rachel felt sick. They weren't just arresting kids. They were selling them. She slammed the folder shut. This is illegal. Corrupt. And you know it. The man smirked. Of course I do. Rachel's fists clenched. Why are you telling me this? He studied her for a moment. Then he said, because I want to make you an offer. Rachel's body tensed. You're smart, the man said. Smarter than most adults I deal with. That's rare. He tapped the folder. You know what's going on now. And that makes you dangerous. Rachel glared. If I'm so dangerous, why haven't you shut me up yet? The man chuckled. Because I don't want to. Rachel frowned. What? He straightened. I want to recruit you. Rachel blinked. Excuse me. The man's smirk widened. Work for us. Rachel's breath caught. You want me to help you frame innocent kids? He shrugged. Not exactly. We need people who can think. People who can find loopholes. People who can make sure things go smoothly. Rachel stared at him in disgust. You want me to help you ruin lives? The man tilted his head. Or, you can sit in a jail cell. Lose everything. No future. No law school. No career. Rachel's jaw tightened. You're trying to bribe me. The man laughed. Call it an opportunity. Rachel's heart pounded. She had expected threats. But this? She had fought so hard to prove herself. To show the world she could do more than just study books. And now, the very people she was fighting against wanted her on their side. She swallowed hard. And if I say no? The man's smirk faded. Then you'll regret it. Rachel's fists clenched under the table. But then bang. The door burst open. Step away from the girl. Rachel whipped her head around. Tommy. And behind him, a reporter holding a camera. The man in the dark suit froze. Tommy stepped forward, his voice shaking but determined. I told you I wasn't going to let you hurt her. Rachel's chest tightened. The reporter, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, raised her camera. We've been recording this entire conversation, she said coolly. The threats, the confession, all of it. The man's face darkened. For the first time, Rachel saw something new in his expression. Panic. The reporter turned to Rachel. We need to go? Now. Rachel jumped up. The man in the dark suit moved as if to stop them, but the reporter spoke again. This is live, she said, pointing to her earpiece. The world is watching. The man's eyes flashed with fury. His fists clenched. But he didn't move. Because now, there were witnesses. Rachel's breath came fast as she bolted from the room, Tommy right behind her. The hallway was chaos. Reporters, police officers, spectators, all watching the scene unfold. Rachel's mind reeled. She had proof. She had a voice. And now, she had a chance to bring the whole system crashing down. But she also knew one thing for certain. This wasn't over. Not even close. Rachel's heart pounded as she sprinted down the courthouse hallway, Tommy at her side, and the reporter just steps behind them. The air buzzed with chaos, whispers, gasps, the clicking of cameras. But she couldn't stop. Not now. Behind her, the man in the dark suit was trapped. Not by walls. Not by guards. By something far more powerful. The truth. Rachel had exposed him. She had exposed the entire corrupt system that had been framing innocent kids for profit. And the best part? It was live. The reporter's broadcast had gone straight to the public. Millions of people had just seen that conversation. There was no going back. Rachel shoved open the courthouse doors. The fresh air hit her face, but it didn't bring relief. Because that was when she saw them. Black cars, parked in a row. No license plates. Men in suits standing beside them. Waiting. Watching. Tommy stopped beside her, his breath coming fast. Rachel. Rachel clenched her fists. They're not going to let us leave. The reporter cursed under her breath. They're covering their tracks. Rachel took a slow breath. They had expected a legal battle. A quiet cover-up. They hadn't expected her to fight back this hard. Now, they were done playing games. One of the men in suits pulled out a phone and spoke into it. Rachel's instincts screamed at her. Move. Now. Back inside, she hissed, grabbing Tommy's arm. The three of them spun around just as the courthouse doors slammed shut behind them. Rachel turned to the reporter. Where can we go? The woman thought fast. There's a side exit. Leads to the media parking lot. Rachel nodded. Then that's where we're going. The three of them sprinted down a side hallway. The further they got from the main entrance, the quieter it became. Rachel's thoughts raced. They're going to come after us. They weren't going to let her expose everything without a fight. Tommy grabbed her wrist. Rachel, what do we do? She looked at him, at the fear in his eyes, and she knew. She wasn't just fighting for justice anymore. She was fighting to survive. The side exit was just ahead. Rachel reached for the handle. A hand grabbed her wrist. She gasped, spinning around. A man in a police uniform towered over her, his grip tight, his eyes unreadable. Miss Meyer, he said coldly. You need to come with me. Rachel yanked her arm away. No, I don't. The officer didn't even flinch. You are interfering in a federal investigation. Rachel's mind raced. They're lying. They're making up charges. Tommy stepped in front of her. She didn't do anything. The officer ignored him. Step away, son. Rachel squared her shoulders. Am I under arrest? The officer hesitated. That was all the confirmation she needed. They had nothing on her. Rachel turned to the reporter. Get out of here. Upload the footage. Let everyone see it. The reporter gave a single nod and sprinted toward the exit. Rachel turned back to the officer. You can't stop the truth. The officer clenched his jaw. Then, he reached for his radio. Code red. Rachel's stomach dropped. That can't be good. Before she could react, the sound of rushing footsteps echoed down the hall. More officers. More suits. Coming straight for her. Rachel's breath caught. She had seconds to decide. Fight. Run. Surrender. Her mind screamed at her. Think. 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 Then, a fire alarm blared through the building. Sprinklers exploded to life, drenching everything in water. Rachel gasped, blinking as water streamed down her face. And then she heard it. Rachel. This way. Tommy. She turned just in time to see him grabbing a fire escape door and shoving it open. Rachel didn't hesitate. She sprinted through, the cold air hitting her like a slap. Behind her, she heard shouting. Officers yelling, suits cursing. She didn't stop. Tommy grabbed her hand, pulling her down the alley behind the courthouse. They ran. Ran like their lives depended on it. Because they did. They didn't stop running until they were 3 blocks away, hidden in a dark alley behind an abandoned building. Rachel leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. Tommy bent over, hands on his knees. That was insane. Rachel wiped water from her face. We need a plan. Tommy nodded, still catching his breath. What now? Rachel's mind worked fast. They won't stop until they silence me. Tommy swallowed. So what do we do? Rachel met his gaze. We hit them first. Tommy frowned. What does that mean? Rachel's hands clenched into fists. It means we expose everything. Now. She pulled out her phone, shaking from adrenaline. The footage. The documents. The faces of every corrupt officer. She had all of it. She was going to make sure the world saw the truth. Because this wasn't just about Tommy. It wasn't even about her anymore. This was about every kid they had ever framed. Rachel took a deep breath. Then, with steady fingers, she hit send. Rachel's finger hovered over the screen for half a second before she pressed send. The files. The footage. The truth. Everything was now in the hands of the public. She watched as the upload progress bar filled, her heart pounding with every second. 5%, 20%, 50%. Tommy stood beside her, still breathing hard from their escape. Is it working? Rachel nodded. It's uploading to every platform. Social media, news outlets, watchdog sites. Even if they shut one down, another will pick it up. Tommy exhaled in relief. Then it's over, right? They can't cover this up anymore. Rachel wanted to believe that. She really did. But deep down, she knew better. Before she could answer, Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her blood turned to ice. Tommy saw the look on her face. Rachel, don't answer it. She swallowed hard. I have to. She took a deep breath and accepted the call. A familiar, chilling voice came through. You just made a very big mistake, Miss Meyer. Rachel's grip tightened around the phone. The only mistake was thinking you could keep this a secret. A low chuckle. You think you've won? I don't think, Rachel shot back. I know. A pause. Then, the voice lowered to something darker. You don't understand how deep this goes, do you? Rachel's chest tightened, but she refused to let fear show. I understand enough. The man on the phone sighed as if genuinely disappointed. Such a shame, he murmured. You had a future. A bright one. You could have been on the winning side. Rachel's stomach churned. I don't make deals with criminals. A longer pause. Then, the man said something that made Rachel's blood turn cold. You think this is about you? Rachel froze. The man chuckled again. You're clever, Rachel, but you're predictable. You care too much. That's why this was never just about you. Rachel's heart pounded in her ears. What are you talking about? Silence. Then, the line went dead. Rachel pulled the phone away, her fingers shaking slightly. Tommy's face was pale. What did he say? Rachel barely heard him. Her mind was spinning, piecing together the unspoken threat. Then it hit her. This wasn't about her. They weren't coming for her. They were going after someone else. Rachel's stomach dropped. She grabbed Tommy's wrist. We have to go. Tommy blinked. Go where? Rachel's breath came fast. My house. They ran. Rachel's thoughts raced as fast as her feet. If the people behind this couldn't stop her, they'd come after someone close to her. And that meant her mom. Rachel had never run so fast in her life. By the time they reached her street, her legs burned, her lungs screamed, but she didn't stop. Her house was just ahead. Dark. Still. Too quiet. Rachel's gut twisted. Something was wrong. She sprinted up the driveway and threw open the door. Mom. Silence. Rachel's heart pounded. She ran inside, flipping on the lights. The living room was normal. The kitchen untouched. But something was missing. Rachel froze. The house felt empty. Tommy stepped inside behind her, looking around. Rachel. She turned to him, her face pale. She's not here. Her phone buzzed. Rachel snatched it up, hoping it was her mom. It wasn't. A text message. From an unknown number. She opened it. A single photo. Rachel's breath caught. Her mom. Sitting in a chair. Hands tied. Blindfolded. Rachel's fingers trembled. Then another text came through. You made your choice. Now we make ours. Rachel's knees nearly gave out. Tommy grabbed her shoulders. Rachel, what is it? She turned the phone so he could see. His eyes widened. No. Rachel's grip tightened around the phone. A white-hot rage boiled inside her. They wanted her to be scared. To give up. To break. But they had just made their biggest mistake yet. Because now, it was personal. Rachel exhaled slowly, her mind sharpening. They thought she was just some nerdy girl. They thought they could scare her into silence. They thought wrong. She wasn't backing down. She wasn't running. She was going to fight. And she was going to win. Rachel lifted her phone and texted back. Big mistake. Rachel's hands trembled as she stared at the picture of her mother. Tied, blindfolded, helpless. Her breath came fast. They had her. They had taken the one person Rachel cared about the most. Her fingers clenched around the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. Tommy stood beside her, reading the text message over her shoulder. His voice was barely a whisper. Rachel, what do we do? Rachel's entire body burned with adrenaline. She had thought she was ready for this fight. She had thought she understood the risks. But now it was real. Now it was personal. Rachel forced herself to breathe. Think. She had studied every case, memorized every legal loophole, prepared for every scenario. Except this one. She closed her eyes for half a second. When she opened them again, she was clear. We get her back, she said. Tommy nodded. Yeah. Okay. But how? Rachel exhaled sharply. We need information. We need to figure out where they took her. Tommy frowned. Do you think the cops will help? Rachel laughed bitterly. The cops are part of this, remember? Tommy swallowed. Right. So, then who do we go to? Rachel's mind worked fast. She needed someone who knew how these people operated. Someone who had been inside their system. Her stomach twisted. She did know someone. But she wasn't going to like it. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number she never thought she'd call. After 2 rings, a voice answered. Well, the voice said, slow and amused. Didn't expect to hear from you again so soon. Rachel's jaw tightened. Shut up and listen. I need your help. The man in the dark suit chuckled softly. Now that's interesting. After everything, you're calling me? Rachel clenched her teeth. They took my mom. Silence. Then, the man sighed. I warned you, Rachel. Her grip tightened on the phone. Where is she? Another pause. Then, the man spoke, his tone quieter. She's alive. Rachel's breath caught. Where is she? I can't tell you that, the man said. But I can tell you this. You're in way over your head. These people don't play games. If you push them, they'll push back. And next time, it won't just be a warning. Rachel's nails dug into her palm. You think I'm just going to let them get away with this? The man sighed again. No, that's the problem. Rachel's pulse raced. So help me. A long silence. Then, I'll give you one name, the man finally said. After that, you're on your own. Rachel's fingers tightened around the phone. I'm listening. The man spoke a name. Rachel's blood ran cold. Tommy watched her face carefully. Who is it? Rachel slowly lowered the phone. Her hands felt numb. She swallowed hard. The name the man had given her? It was someone she knew. Someone she had trusted. Someone she had never expected to be part of this. Rachel looked at Tommy, her voice barely above a whisper. It's the judge. Rachel and Tommy sat in the shadows of an abandoned lot, the city lights flickering in the distance. Tommy ran a hand through his hair. The judge? The judge. Rachel nodded slowly. It makes sense. He was stalling. He was nervous when I showed the video. He knew. Tommy exhaled sharply. Okay, but what do we do? We can't just walk up to a judge and demand he tell us where your mom is. Rachel shook her head. No, but I know how to get answers. Tommy raised an eyebrow. How? Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. We break into his office. Tommy choked. What? Rachel crossed her arms. We don't have time. He's part of this. He has to have records. Notes. Something. Tommy shook his head. Rachel, this is insane. She turned to him, her voice fierce. They took my mom. Tommy's mouth snapped shut. Rachel inhaled sharply. If we don't do this, she could die. Silence stretched between them. Then, finally, Tommy sighed. Fine. But if we get caught, I'm blaming you. Rachel smirked, but it didn't reach her eyes. Deal. The courthouse was dark when they arrived. Rachel and Tommy crouched behind a row of hedges, staring at the looming building. The judge's office was on the second floor. No guards. No cameras in the back. It was risky, but they had no choice. Rachel took a deep breath. Okay, we go up the fire escape. In and out. 5 minutes. Tommy groaned. Why do I let you talk me into these things? Rachel grinned. Because I'm always right. Tommy muttered under his breath, but followed her anyway. They moved quickly, scaling the metal fire escape, careful not to make too much noise. The window to the judge's office was locked. Rachel pulled out a small glass cutter she had taken from the school's chemistry lab. Tommy gawked. When did you get that? Rachel shrugged. I prepare for everything. Tommy shook his head. I don't know whether to be impressed or scared. Rachel carefully cut a small hole in the window, just big enough to reach inside and unlock it. The window clicked open. Rachel grinned. We're in. She slipped inside first, followed by Tommy. The office was eerily quiet, the moon casting long shadows on the desk. Papers were scattered across the table. A locked filing cabinet stood against the wall. Rachel moved fast, sifting through documents. Help me find anything about my mom. Anything about the operation. Tommy nodded and started searching. Minutes passed. Then, I got something, Tommy whispered. Rachel hurried over. A folder, labeled special cases. Rachel flipped it open. Inside were names. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Students. Like Tommy. Her heart pounded. These weren't just random arrests. These were targets. And then she saw it. A paper clipped to the last page. A list of transfer orders. Rachel's eyes widened. Her mother's name was on it. Next to it, an address. Rachel's breath caught. This is where they took her. Tommy peered over her shoulder. Then let's go. A loud clang. Rachel and Tommy froze. Footsteps. Coming down the hallway. Rachel's stomach dropped. Someone was coming. And they were trapped. Rachel's breath caught as the footsteps grew louder, echoing in the silent courthouse hallway. Whoever was coming. They were getting closer. Tommy's eyes widened in panic. Rachel, what do we do? Rachel's mind raced. They couldn't run. The door was the only exit. and whoever was outside would see them the moment they stepped out. She looked around, desperate. Think, think, think. Then she saw it. A closet in the corner. Rachel grabbed Tommy's wrist and yanked him toward it. Move. Now. They darted across the room and slipped inside, just as the office door swung open. Rachel barely had time to shut the closet door before heavy footsteps entered the room. Her heart pounded in her chest. Through the tiny slits in the closet door, she could see a shadow moving. A man. Tall. Broad shoulders. Armed. Not a janitor. Not a courthouse guard. Someone looking for them. Rachel held her breath, pressing herself against the back wall of the closet. She could feel Tommy shaking beside her. The man stepped further into the office. The sound of rustling papers. A drawer slamming shut. He was searching for something. The folder. Rachel swallowed hard. If he noticed it was missing, the man suddenly froze. Rachel could barely make out his face, but she saw it. He was staring at the desk. And right there, lying on the smooth wooden surface, was a single piece of paper. Rachel's stomach dropped. It was the transfer order. The paper she had been holding before they hid. She must have dropped it when they ran. The man slowly picked it up. His fingers tightened around it. Rachel held her breath. Please don't figure it out. Please don't. Then, the man's entire body stiffened. His head snapped toward the closet. Rachel's blood turned to ice. He knew. The closet door ripped open. Rachel reacted on instinct. Before the man could grab her, she threw herself forward, slamming her shoulder into his chest. He stumbled back. Tommy lunged, grabbing the nearest thing, a metal lamp from the judge's desk, and swung it as hard as he could. Crack! The man crumpled to the floor. Rachel gasped for air. Her heart was racing. Tommy! But Tommy was already grabbing her wrist. We need to go. Rachel didn't argue. They bolted. The courthouse was eerily empty as they sprinted through the hallways, their shoes slamming against the marble floor. Rachel clutched the folder to her chest. They had the address. They knew where her mother was. They just had to get there before it was too late. Tommy skidded to a stop near the fire escape. Rachel car. Rachel's mind worked fast. We need something fast. We can't take my car. They'll track it. Tommy hesitated. What about? Then, out of nowhere, a set of headlights flashed through the courthouse windows. Rachel spun around. A car. Parked outside. Running. Not a black SUV. Not one of theirs. Rachel's eyes narrowed. That's not a government car. Tommy frowned. Then whose? The driver's side door suddenly swung open. Rachel's breath caught as a figure stepped out. Not a cop. Not an agent. A woman. Rachel's jaw dropped. It was the reporter. The same one who had broadcasted her conversation with the man in the dark suit. She motioned frantically toward them. Get in. Now. Rachel didn't ask questions. She and Tommy ran for it. The moment they dove into the car, the reporter slammed the gas pedal, sending them flying down the street. Rachel panted, clutching her seatbelt. How did you? The reporter cut her off. No time. You're in danger. Big danger. Rachel already knew that. But something about the woman's tone made her heart pound. The reporter's eyes flickered to Rachel in the rearview mirror. Listen to me, Rachel. You just made enemies out of some of the most powerful people in the country. Rachel clenched her jaw. I don't care. They took my mom. The reporter's lips pressed into a thin line. I know, she said. That's why I'm helping you. Rachel sat up straighter. Then tell me the truth. Who are these people? Who is behind this? The reporter's grip tightened on the wheel. Then, she said two words that made Rachel's blood freeze. The Foundation. Rachel's entire body locked up. She had read about them before. A secret organization. Not government, not corporate, something bigger. No one knew exactly what they did. Only that they had power in every system. Law enforcement, courts, politics. And now, Rachel had crossed them. Her pulse pounded. Where's my mom? The reporter handed her a piece of paper. That's where they took her. Rachel grabbed it. An abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Rachel frowned. Why take her there? Why not somewhere more secure? The reporter's voice was grim. Because they don't need secure. Rachel's stomach twisted. What do you mean? The reporter inhaled sharply. Rachel, they weren't planning to keep her. Rachel's heart stopped. The air left her lungs. No, 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 no. She looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. You're saying they're going to? The reporter nodded, her face grim. They're tying up loose ends. Rachel felt like the world had tipped over. If they didn't get there soon. She shoved the paper into her pocket. Faster. The reporter pressed the gas. The car lurched forward. Rachel's hands shook. She had fought her whole life to prove she was smart, that she could stand against impossible odds. Now, she was about to risk everything. Because one thing was certain. If she didn't stop them now, she would never see her mom again. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and white as the car raced through the streets. Rachel's pulse was a drum in her ears, her hands gripping the seat so tightly her nails dug into the fabric. Her mom was running out of time. Tommy sat beside her, tense and silent. The reporter kept her eyes locked on the road, her jaw tight. The air in the car was thick, filled with the weight of what they were about to do. Rachel pulled out the address again. An abandoned warehouse. It was the perfect place for a disappearance. Rachel swallowed hard. Not this time. She turned to the reporter. Who are these people? The reporter didn't take her eyes off the road. The Foundation is bigger than you think. Bigger than just corrupt cops and judges. They control things from the shadows. Politics. Law enforcement. Private prisons. They own the system. Rachel's mind raced. And my mom. The reporter's grip tightened on the wheel. She's leverage. But if they think they can't use her. Rachel's stomach twisted. They'll kill her. She clenched her fists. Then we have to move fast. Tommy finally spoke. Do we have a plan? Rachel exhaled. Get in. Get her. Get out. Tommy made a face. That's not a plan. That's a suicide mission. Rachel turned to him. Then help me make it better. Tommy hesitated, then nodded. We need a distraction. The reporter pulled something from her bag and tossed it onto Rachel's lap. Rachel caught it, her breath hitching when she saw what it was. A police scanner. Rachel looked up. Where did you get this? The reporter smirked. You're not the only one who knows how to break the rules, kid. Rachel turned the knob, tuning into the frequencies. Static. Then voices. Unit 3, report to Sector 12. Rachel focused. If she could manipulate the police response times, they might buy themselves some extra minutes. Then she heard something that made her heart stop. A voice crackled through the speaker. Target secured. Orders to eliminate in T-minus 30 minutes. Rachel's blood ran cold. Tommy paled. 30 minutes? Rachel snapped her head toward the reporter. Drive faster. The reporter slammed her foot on the gas. The car lurched forward. Rachel's heart pounded. They were almost out of time. 15 minutes later, the warehouse loomed ahead, dark, massive, and surrounded by chain-link fences. Rachel scanned the area. 2 guards at the front. A third one patrolling. The others had to be inside. Tommy peered over the dashboard. How do we get in? Rachel's brain worked fast. I'll take the patrol guard. You two handle the entrance. Tommy's eyes widened. Rachel, you've never taken down a guard before. Rachel gave him a sharp look. Neither have you. Tommy groaned. This is a bad idea. Rachel smirked. No, this is the only idea. The reporter parked the car a block away. We move now. Rachel nodded, stepping out. Her hands trembled slightly, but she ignored it. She wasn't scared. She was focused. Rachel crouched behind a row of stacked crates, her heart hammering. The patrolling guard walked past, his boots crunching against the gravel. Now, Rachel grabbed a loose metal pipe and swung. Crack. The guard collapsed. Rachel barely had time to breathe before Tommy and the reporter rushed the entrance. Tommy threw a rock at one of the guards. Hey! The guard turned, too slow. The reporter slammed a baton across his face. He crumpled. The second guard reached for his gun. Rachel lunged, slamming her knee into his stomach. He wheezed. Stumbled. The reporter finished the job with a swift knockout hit. Rachel gasped for breath. It worked. Tommy blinked. Okay. I can't believe that actually worked. Rachel smirked. Come on. We don't have time to celebrate. They slipped inside. The warehouse was huge. Dark. Cold. Rachel's stomach twisted. She could feel it. Her mom was here. They crept forward, hiding behind crates. Distant voices echoed from the far end of the warehouse. Rachel's pulse pounded. Then she saw it. A small room in the back. A single light flickering inside. Rachel ran. She reached the door, hard in her throat. She pressed her ear against the wood. A soft sound. Breathing. Rachel's eyes burned. Mom. She grabbed the handle and shoved it open. There, tied to a chair, blindfolded, was her mother. Rachel's breath hitched. Mom. Her mother's head lifted. Rachel. Rachel sprinted forward, untying the ropes as fast as her fingers would move. I'm here. You're okay. Her mother's hands trembled as she gripped Rachel's arms. They said they'd kill me. Rachel swallowed hard. Not today. Then, a loud voice boomed behind them. Well. Rachel froze. She turned slowly. Standing in the doorway, gun in hand, was the judge. Rachel's stomach dropped. Her mind screamed at her to move, think, react, but all she could do was stare. The judge smirked. You just don't know when to stop, do you? Rachel gritted her teeth. Let us go. The judge sighed dramatically. Oh, Rachel, if I let you go, do you really think you'd just walk away? Rachel's fists clenched. People already know. Your whole operation is exposed. It's over. The judge laughed. Is it? He raised the gun. Rachel's breath caught. Her mom whimpered. Tommy and the reporter stood frozen behind her. For the first time, Rachel had no plan. Then, bang. Rachel flinched. But the bullet didn't hit her. Because the judge collapsed. Rachel's head snapped around. Behind him, gun raised, shaking, eyes wide, was the man in the dark suit. Rachel's jaw dropped. You? He lowered the gun, his face unreadable. I told you were in over your head. Rachel stared, breathing hard. The judge lay motionless. Sirens wailed in the distance. The Foundation's secrets had been exposed. Rachel had won. But she knew. This wasn't over. Not yet. Rachel's breath came in sharp, uneven bursts. The judge was dead. The man in the dark suit, her enemy, her tormentor, had just saved her life. For a long moment, no one spoke. The reporter's eyes were wide, her hands clenched into fists. Tommy had gone pale. Rachel's mother clung to her, trembling. And the man in the dark suit? He simply stood there, gun still in his hand, expression unreadable. Rachel's mind spun. Why? Why did he do it? She forced herself to speak, her voice hoarse. You just... The man cut her off. We don't have time for questions. Rachel's stomach twisted. You killed him. The man barely reacted. Yes. Rachel stared. Why? The man sighed. Because he was a liability. Rachel clenched her fists. A liability for who? The Foundation? Or you? A flicker of something flashed in his eyes. Both. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. The man exhaled sharply. You need to leave. Now. Rachel narrowed her eyes. And why should I listen to you? The man looked at her, his voice lower. Because if you don't, you won't make it out of here alive. Rachel's pulse pounded. She didn't trust him. Not for a second. But he was right about one thing. They needed to move. She turned to Tommy and the reporter. Get my mom out of here. Tommy's eyes widened. What about you? Rachel's jaw tightened. I need answers. Her mother grabbed her arm. Rachel, no. Let's just go. Rachel swallowed hard. Mom, I have to do this. Her mother's eyes filled with panic. Rachel squeezed her hand. I promise I'll find you later. The reporter didn't argue. She grabbed Rachel's mom's wrist. Come on. Tommy hesitated. Then, reluctantly, followed. Rachel's chest tightened as she watched them disappear into the night. She turned back to the man in the dark suit. Her voice was cold. Start talking. They stood in the shadows of the warehouse, hidden from the flashing police lights outside. Rachel's fingers were still shaking. The man studied her, then spoke, his voice low. You were never supposed to get this far. Rachel's jaw clenched. Yeah, well, you underestimated me. The man smirked slightly. Clearly. Rachel glared. So what happens now? You kill me too. He shook his head. No. Because unlike the judge, you're valuable. Rachel stiffened. Valuable. She knew what that meant. They still wanted her. You have a choice, the man said. You can run. Hide. Spend your life looking over your shoulder. Rachel stayed silent. Or, the man continued, you can come with me. Rachel's breath caught. What? The man's gaze darkened. The Foundation doesn't just eliminate threats. It absorbs them. You're too smart to be an enemy. Rachel felt her stomach twist. You want me to join you? The man nodded. You have two options, Rachel. Work for us, or be hunted. Rachel's chest rose and fell rapidly. She wasn't scared. She was furious. They had taken everything from her. And now they thought they could recruit her? Rachel took a slow step forward. I'll give you my answer. The man raised an eyebrow. Rachel's eyes burned with fire. Go to hell. The man exhaled. I was afraid you'd say that. Rachel braced herself. He was going to kill her. Right here. Right now. But instead, he pulled something from his pocket. A USB drive. Rachel blinked. What is that? The man tossed it to her. She caught it instinctively. Insurance, he said. Rachel frowned. For who? The man's expression darkened. For you. For me. For everyone. Rachel looked down at the USB, confusion swirling in her chest. Then the man turned away. Rachel snapped up. Where are you going? He didn't look back. You exposed the foundation, but you didn't destroy it. Rachel's heart pounded. Then I will. The man smirked slightly. We'll see. And then, just like that, he was gone. Rachel sat on the floor of her motel room, staring at the USB drive. The reporter had taken her mother somewhere safe. Tommy was asleep on the couch. Rachel? She was still thinking. She had everything she needed to bring the foundation down. But what would it cost her? She plugged the USB into her laptop. Files appeared. Names. Bank records. Every corrupt deal the foundation had ever made. Rachel's pulse raced. She could end them. But as she scrolled, one file caught her eye. A single name. Her own. Rachel's blood ran cold. She clicked on it. A document opened. A case file. And at the bottom, a date. Rachel's heart stopped. It was 3 weeks from today. Tommy stirred on the couch. Rachel? What's wrong? Rachel barely heard him, because she had just realized the truth. The foundation hadn't planned to kill her. They had planned to recruit her from the very beginning. And if she didn't stop them now, they would never stop coming for her. Rachel clenched her fists. This wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about survival. Rachel's fingers trembled as she stared at the file on her laptop screen. Her own name. The foundation had planned for this. Planned for her. The date at the bottom of the file, 3 weeks from today. Rachel's pulse pounded. They hadn't just been watching her. They had chosen her. Tommy sat up on the couch, rubbing his eyes. Rachel? What is it? Rachel's voice was hoarse. They were never going to kill me. Tommy frowned. What? She turned the laptop toward him. They were going to recruit me. Tommy's face went pale. But, you said they already tried. Rachel nodded. That was just a test. She pointed at the file. This is their real plan. They wanted me all along. Tommy's eyes flickered over the document. His breath hitched. It says they've been watching you for years. Rachel's stomach twisted. She scrolled further. There were notes. Reports. They knew everything about her. Her grades, her speeches in debate club, the cases she had studied. Even her parents. Rachel's breath caught. Her father's name was in the file. She hadn't seen him in years. He had disappeared when she was 10. Rachel clicked on the link attached to his name. A second file opened. And what she saw made her blood run cold. Her father's face stared back at her. Older. Harder. Wearing a black suit. Rachel's entire body went numb. Her father worked for the foundation. Her vision blurred. She had spent years wondering why he left. Thinking he had abandoned them. But now she knew. Tommy's voice was barely above a whisper. Rachel, your dad is one of them. Rachel's hands shook. She forced herself to keep reading. There were mission reports. Assignments. He had been working with them for over a decade. And at the bottom of the file, a final note. Subject Meyer is a prime candidate for recruitment. She will be approached at the designated time. If she refuses, neutralization may be necessary. Rachel froze. Neutralization. That was their backup plan. Rachel's stomach turned. If I don't join them, they'll kill me. Tommy shot up. No way. They can't. Rachel's voice was quiet. They already tried. Tommy's hands clenched into fists. Then we stopped them. For good. Rachel inhaled sharply. He was right. She had exposed them, but that wasn't enough. She had to end them. She scrolled back to the top of the file, searching for anything that could help. Then she found it. A location. Rachel's breath caught. I know where they are. Tommy leaned in. Where? Rachel pointed at the screen. Their headquarters. An hour later, Rachel and Tommy sat in a stolen car, parked on the outskirts of the city. Rachel's mind was razor sharp. Focused. This was it. The final step. She had one chance to bring them down. Tommy looked at her. So what's the plan? Rachel exhaled. We leak everything. The files. The locations. The names. But we do it at the right moment. Tommy frowned. What do you mean? Rachel's eyes flickered toward the dark tower in the distance. That building, she said. That's where they keep their main servers. That's where they store everything. Tommy's eyes widened. You're saying we hack them? Rachel nodded. We don't just release the files. We take everything. Every bank account. Every secret. We erase them. Tommy stared. Rachel, that's insane. Rachel's voice was cold. So is what they've done to us. Tommy hesitated. Then he nodded. I'm with you. Rachel's fingers tightened around the steering wheel. They had to do this right. One mistake, and they were dead. Rachel took a deep breath. Let's go. The building was heavily guarded. Armed men patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras covered every entrance. But Rachel had studied their weaknesses. There was an underground access tunnel, a maintenance route. Rachel and Tommy moved fast. They slipped through a gap in the fence, darting into the tunnel entrance. Dark, cold, silent. Rachel's pulse pounded as they crept through the shadows. They reached a metal door. Rachel pulled out the stolen key card from one of the judge's files. It clicked open. Tommy swallowed. Here goes nothing. They slipped inside. The server room was massive. Rows of computers, humming machines. Rachel moved quickly, plugging a flash drive into the main terminal. Tommy stood beside her, his hands shaking. Are you sure about this? Rachel's eyes burned with determination. This ends tonight. She hit enter. The system flashed red. File transfer, in progress. Rachel's breath caught. It was working. Then, an alarm blared. Tommy's head snapped up. They know we're here. Rachel's fingers flew over the keyboard. Just a little longer. Footsteps. Rushing toward them. Tommy pulled out a stun gun. Rachel. The door burst open. And standing there, gun in hand, was her father. Rachel's breath hitched. Her father stared at her. His face unreadable. Then, quietly, Rachel, step away from the computer. Rachel's hands shook. The man who had disappeared from her life. The man she thought had abandoned her. The man who now wanted her to stop. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. You work for them. Her father's expression didn't change. You don't understand, Rachel. Her heart pounded. Then make me understand. Her father exhaled. They're not just powerful. They're everywhere. If you don't stop now, they will bury you. Rachel's voice hardened. They tried. And they failed. Her father's jaw tightened. Rachel. She pressed enter. The screen flashed. Upload complete. The entire world now had the files. Her father's eyes widened. Then, gunfire exploded outside. Rachel spun around. What? The Foundation's security was collapsing. Rachel's upload had triggered a full-scale exposure. Rachel looked back at her father. It's over. Her father was silent. Then, for the first time, he smiled and whispered, Good job, kid. Before Rachel could react, he turned and shot the security guards behind him. Rachel froze. Her father turned back. Let's go. Rachel stared. Her father had just saved her. The man who had disappeared for years had just chosen her over them. Rachel's mind spun, but there was no time for questions, because now they had to run. Rachel ran. Her heart thundered as she sprinted through the halls of the collapsing Foundation headquarters, Tommy at her side, her father leading the way. The alarms wailed. Red lights flashed. The Foundation was falling. Rachel's hands were still shaking. She had done it. She had exposed them all. But she didn't have time to celebrate. Because if they didn't get out now, they wouldn't live to see the world she had just changed. Down here, her father's voice cut through the chaos. He led them toward a back exit, dodging bullets as guards tried to contain the destruction. Rachel's pulse pounded. Why are you helping us? Her father didn't look back. Because you did what I never could. Rachel's chest tightened. You knew what they were doing? Her father exhaled sharply. I did. Rage boiled inside her. And you worked for them anyway? Her father whirled around. For the first time, his mask cracked. His voice was raw. You think I had a choice? Rachel's breath caught. I was like you once, he said. I wanted to fight back. But I wasn't as smart as you. I made mistakes. And when I tried to leave, his jaw clenched. They threatened you. Your mother. Rachel froze. My only option, he continued, was to stay. To survive. To make sure they didn't touch you. Rachel's stomach twisted. She had spent years hating him, thinking he had abandoned them. But now, she realized the truth. He had been protecting her all along. Before Rachel could respond, a bullet whizzed past her head. Tommy grabbed her arm. Less talking, more running. Rachel snapped out of it. They bolted. The exit was just ahead. Rachel could see the night sky, the city lights, freedom. But then, a figure stepped into their path. Rachel skidded to a stop. Her stomach dropped. It was the man in the dark suit. His gun was raised. His expression cold. Rachel's breath hitched. You really think you've won? He said, voice dripping with venom. Rachel lifted her chin. I don't think. I know. The man smirked. The Foundation isn't just one building, Rachel. It's not just one operation. You destroyed a branch. A piece. Rachel's fingers clenched. He took a slow step forward. You have no idea how deep this goes. Rachel refused to back down. Then I'll keep digging. The man's smirk faded. That's the problem with people like you. You don't know when to stop. Rachel's heart pounded. She knew what was coming next. The man's finger tightened on the trigger. Rachel's breath caught. Then, bang. Rachel flinched. But the bullet never hit her. Instead, the man in the dark suit collapsed. Rachel's eyes widened. She spun around. Her father was holding the gun. Rachel's breath hitched. He had just. Her father exhaled. Come on. Rachel nodded. No more questions. They ran. They burst through the doors into the cold night air. And for the first time, Rachel felt free. The next morning, the world had changed. The Foundation's secrets had been leaked to the public. The files Rachel uploaded had gone viral. Corrupt officials were being arrested. Investigations had begun. The system was crumbling. Rachel sat on the hood of the reporter's car, staring at the city skyline. Tommy stood beside her, arms crossed. So what now? Rachel exhaled. I don't know. She had spent so long fighting. She didn't know what to do after. Her father walked up, hands in his pockets. They'll rebuild, he said quietly. The people behind this, they won't stop. Rachel knew he was right. But she wasn't afraid anymore. She looked up at him. Then neither will I. Her father studied her. Then, for the first time in years, he smiled. I'm proud of you, kid. Rachel's chest tightened. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. She turned to Tommy. You ready? Tommy raised an eyebrow. For what? Rachel smirked. The next case.